guest indeed, a genuinely nice guy and a phenomenal hypnotist, a legend within the industry. So I really can't wait for you guys to kind of speak to him. Natasha Stanley regains her title as the first commenter. But Natasha, how is the sound? Can everybody hear me okay? First things first, Richard Cole is here as well, testing out his Canadian internet. That is brilliant. So we'll get the ball rolling. Tonight's guest has the title of creating and producing one of the longest shows in Las Vegas history, which in itself is an amazing accolade. He has performed 4,000 shows in Las Vegas and all the big casinos, the famous ones that you want to headline at. This guy is headlined at. He is a legend within the industry. But not only that, he's a genuinely nice guy. I've had lots of guests on this show, and literally the moment that this went out, that this guest was on, I was getting messages from people telling me what an absolutely amazing person this is. Andre's here as well. Woohoo! Michael rocks as a hypnotist and as a human. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's so nice to get to be up there and be nice up there as well. So without further ado, please welcome, I don't know which side he's going to appear on, but please welcome the legend that is Michael Johns.
That is such a build up, man. And here I am sitting in a scruffy old t-shirt in my kitchen. I'm actually kind of embarrassed right now. So thank you all for the kind words. It's a pleasure to be here, Grant.
You're cool enough to pull off a t-shirt. I've got to wear a jacket. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's you're the talent. You're the talent. So fantastic. Roy Miller says, good evening. Andre, again, you just said that rocks as a hypnotist and a human. Richard Cole says, good day.
Thank you, brother. Hey,
hello.
Andre, good to see you, bro. I haven't talked to you in a while, man. Get in touch.
Brilliant. I mean, you've done it all. You've lived the life that most hypnotists, when they get into this industry, they want the path that you had. But tell us about before that. I mean, I know you were in the military. How did you get from a serving soldier to being a Vegas headliner?
Sure. Yeah. So I was in the military. I was in the Army, and I was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, which is the home of the infantry, and got to do some really cool stuff when I was with them. And there was a comedy club in town. It was called Al Who's. I'll never forget this. They did an open mic night on Thursday nights. And I don't know what it was. I just decided to get up there, and I caught the bug, so to speak. So I actually started out as a stand-up, and I was headlining comedy clubs as a stand-up. I was doing, several hundred dates a year, headlining A-rooms all over the country.
Nice.
And, also, but let me back that up. I didn't start out in A-rooms. I grounded out like everybody else does, right? Doing little one-nighters in the middle of North Dakota and, in between, on a bowling alley in between two lanes with people bowling right now. I mean, I've done them all. I've done a bait shop. I did trust me, if there's a bad place to do a show, I've probably done it there.
Do you know what though? I mean, I always joke about the spit and sawdust shows, but I think you've got to do them. They build your character so that when you get to the good stages, you know how to handle an audience, you know how to handle, stuff that randomly happens to you. And I think in this modern day, sound like an old person now, in this modern times, when people see like talent show competitions on TV, they go from their bedroom to a big showroom and nowhere in between. And I think you've got to die on stage. You've got to get booed off stage. You've got to go through all that stuff to kind of go, do you know what? Is this really for me? And then get through the other side. So yeah, I still have terrible shows. But afterwards I look back and I think, do you know what? There's something positive from that. So what was your first experience with hypnosis? How did you discover it?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, having terrible shows, because I'm a firm believer that if you've never had a really bad show, you haven't done enough shows yet.
Yeah.
And, my very first hypnosis show, I bombed. It was so bad. I felt so bad for the people that were watching the show. I kept looking at my watch going, okay, can this be over yet? And, it was absolutely horrible. And, that was my very first show. And when I walked off stage, I'm like, I don't ever want to get back up there again. But I'd already had another show booked and I'd already taken the deposit and I wasn't going to give that deposit back. So I had to look back and go, okay, where did I mess up here? And it's the same way with comedy too, right? You're going to get in front of a crowd or an audience that you just can't make that connection with. I mean, no matter how hard you try, you cannot make that connection. And My friend Dwayne, I'll never forget this. The very first time I ever headlined a club, he opened for me, and as I was walking past him, he grabbed me and he said, "They're going to hate you." And this is as I'm walking up on stage, right? And I'm thinking, why did he just say that? They're going to hate me. And, so I do the show and it turns out really well, right? People, they were responsive and, I was able to make that connection, which is always the most important thing. And I walked off stage and I said, "Dude, why did you say that? That just really threw me." And he said, "Because it doesn't matter." He said, "Whether they love you or they hate you, there's going to be another show tomorrow. The sun's going to come up. Just get up there and give it everything you've got." And that's really what it's about, right? It's whether they love you or they hate you have to go out there and you have to give everything.
Yeah. You've got to make it's not about you. It's they'll have a good night or they're going to have a bad night. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You dust it off tomorrow night. You've got a second chance to entertain those people. Brenda Kay says, "I remember meeting Michael at Wits End Comedy Club in Colorado way back in the day when I first started doing my stage hypnosis career." Brenda is a phenomenal hypnotist.
She is amazing. I love Brenda, and she is somebody to watch. She's doing great things. So yeah, she's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, and Natasha Stanley says, "I think in smaller shows you get more opportunity to connect with an audience. They have much more real experience than just watching on big stage shows." Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And working those small rooms, that's what really makes you good, right? Anybody can get in front of a room of 500 people, and the numbers. I mean, let's be honest, hypnosis is a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
So if you put me in a room of 500 people, I'm gonna knock it out of the park. I'm gonna be able to do it with my eyes closed and thinking about what I'm gonna have for to eat afterwards, right? I'm not gonna be. I'm not saying I do that. I'm just saying I know that's how the formula works.
Yeah.
And with smaller crowds, you have to really work hard to make that connection.
Yeah.
And you'll hear me talk about that a lot because that's the most important thing, right? You've got to make that connection.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I agree with Natasha 100%. That's a great observation. Yeah, you have to be able to work those smaller crowds and people get a much more intimate experience.
Yeah. And I think that's it. People have got to go away feeling like, even if it is a 500-seater place, they've got to go away feeling like it is that connection between you and them. When you talk about that, you can knock it out of the park with 500 people. I remember doing a venue, I've talked about it before, and 1,500 people in the audience. Everything's fantastic. Everything by the book is perfect. And I just remember the stage manager going, 80% of the passengers are retired Germans who don't speak English.
Yeah.
And you go from this place of absolute confidence thinking, I've made this. This is going to be simple to literally like, please just will the earth swallow me up.
Sure. And I say that, kind of, I was kind of flippant about that. I mean, don't get me wrong. You still have, whether it's a crowd of 500 or 5,000, you still have to go up there and you have to connect and you have to make that person in the third row feel like you're talking to them, just like you have to make the person in the 50th row feel like you're talking to them.
Yeah.
You have to bridge that.
Yeah. I mean, what I was going to say, we always ask for kind of tips and advice sort of thing, but do you have any tips about that, about creating that connection? I know in the early days, I suffered from, I would find the friendly face at the front and then just focus on them. Now I don't. Now I have my own kind of tips to kind of work the room a little bit, but it's easy to kind of go, this is a tough room, but that person smiling and laughing, I'm going to focus my whole show to them, but then you lose everybody else.
Yeah. Man, I think the most important thing in any size room is just to be authentic, and that's how you're going to make that connection. Good. Whether you love me or hate me on stage, and there are plenty of both, you can never say that I wasn't real, right? Yeah. I'm always going to be authentic. And I believe an audience feels the phoniness, and so especially in a bigger room, if you come out there and you're the big jovial guy and you're this and that, hey, good evening and welcome, and you've got that phony voice going on, and they're going to pick up on that immediately, and you're not going to have the response or the outcome that you want.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows here, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm an expert in what works for me. So if you disagree, I totally get that.
It's. I mean, we live in an industry that is filled with experts, and it's exactly what you said then about the stage as well. People know people can see authenticity and can connect with that. So when people are seeking out mentors, it's always a great thing for them to do is actually find someone that you connect with that is authentic and take it from there. But yeah, you are, you've done a lot of things that make you more knowledgeable, especially about stagecraft than a lot of other people. So yeah, hats, I'm a fanboy of you.
Well, and believe me, it's reciprocal, man. I'm a huge Grant Saunders fan.
Hey.
You mentioned finding mentors, Grant, and that's one of the things that I was always good at doing. My biggest influence in this business was a guy named Jay Medicine Hat. And if you don't know who Jay was, he passed away in 2012, but I love that guy. He was my buddy, he was my friend, and he was the most amazing performer I've ever seen in my entire life. And when you think about a hypnotist, they come on stage and they have like maybe a sport coat on, or they have Jay would walk up wearing his shorts, his work boots, with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he would absolutely destroy any room that he was in because he was so good. Yeah. And I said, Jay, you sell out every room. And I'll back up the story and tell you how I met Jay in just a minute. But I said, Jay, you sell out every room you go to. I mean, you have these rabid fans. They call them hat heads. How do you do it? He said, I'm just me. I'm just me. And again, that's always stuck with me, right? And the reason I met Jay was because as a stand-up, I was working with the Funny Bone Comedy Club chain. They're a big chain, or at least they were big in the States, kind of like an improv type thing. A lot of them are A rooms, they're really high level rooms. So I was doing a lot of those. And there's a lady named Colleen that ran the Omaha Funny Bone. And she said, listen, if you want to get into this hypnosis thing and you want to be really good at it, you need to see this guy. And so she introduced me to Jay, and we just became friends. And just absolutely the most amazing. I'm sure there's some videos of him on YouTube you can probably find, but absolutely, without a doubt, the most amazing performer, hypnosis performer and comedian I've ever met in my entire life. Because again, he came from he came from a comedy background, right? So even if you're failing miserably in a show, if you've got the comedy to fall back on, you're okay. Yeah. And then, another mentor was, my business partner, Terry Stokes. I learned more about stagecraft from Terry than I ever learned from anybody else. And I would never tell Terry this, and I hope he's not listening, but my career would not have been nearly what it was without Terry. I love Terry to death. He's my brother. And if you ever want to see somebody who is so smooth on stage, look up Terry Stokes. He's got a couple books out. If you can find them, I think they're on Amazon, or just reach out to him and get his books, because I've never seen the man get flustered on stage. He's unflappable. He's original. He's, just amazing. So going back to finding those mentors that you were talking about, Grant, and that's how I was able to, I guess, get to where I was, that with a lot of hard work, sleepless nights, and unbridled ambition.
Yeah, I think it's especially like mentors as well. It's you pick up little bits from different places that just kind of work. I saw a guy. I think he is quite big in America now, called Puddle's Pity Party, who's a 6'6" clown that doesn't speak but sings. But his command of a stage without speaking is unbelievable. And like watching some of his performances, you go, "Oh, how can I use this in a show?" Ian Rogers has got a great question. He says, "How do you both handle a heckler?"
Would you like me to take the lead on that?
Well, for me, I like to make. I think it's such a fun part of the show, but it's also a great time to make an example of that person, so that everybody else goes, "Oh shit, let's behave ourselves." So yeah, I like to make an example of them. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, Grant, that's a great example. And Ian, that's a great question too, right? Because you're going to run into that. You're going to run into people who, they're too, pardon my language, chicken shit to get on stage, but they want to be the center of attention, right? Yeah. So you're going to run into that no matter what you're doing, whether it's, a seminar or, you're going to run into it. So you have two choices, right? You can either ignore it and hope it goes away. And if it doesn't, you lose the audience.
Yeah.
You can attack it and make it go away. But if you attack it the wrong way, you're going to lose the audience. And believe me, I have been guilty. I used to do a joke about how I can lose an entire audience of people in less than 10 seconds. And, you know, there are many times in my career that I've just gone overboard on a heckler. And that's one of those things you learn, you know, okay, I probably shouldn't have gone that far, but you know, I mean, look, we're all human, right? And sometimes you're up there, you're working hard, you're trying to do great things for these people that paid hard-earned money to come and see you, and then you've got this jackass who just wants to interrupt or, you know, do whatever. And it's like, you know, never in 25 years of performing have I written a bit where I need some random asshole in the audience to yell something out. I don't need that, right? I don't need your help. And my biggest pet peeve, and entertainers, you know, you may hate me for this, but my biggest pet peeve is this: when somebody heckles you and you go up to them after the show and they try to play it off like it was all cool and you let them off the hook, you're wrong. Don't ever do that, because that creates this expectation that, oh yeah, it's okay, he was cool with it, I'll do it again next time. And you know, so again, it just, I know what works for me. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. But I just feel like, you know, don't let people off the hook like that. I mean, it's not okay. And I'll tell people that, you know, hey man, you know, sorry I interrupted you, or hey man, I was just trying to help out. Well, you know, no, you weren't helping out. You know, I don't need you to help me out. I'm a professional. That's why you paid to see me.
And it's I think we're just getting out of the culture. There used to be a culture of like, it was almost expected to heckle a comedian or a hypnotist to try and get involved. Now I think people are just starting to understand that actually this is crafted material. This has been written. Everything is done for a purpose. Chipping in is ruining it for everybody else. But absolutely.
Absolutely. So Ian, I hope that answered your question. And, you know, I've always said, if I can help anybody, you know, I'm here to help. I've never turned anybody down who asked for my help. You feel free to email me or reach out to me on some kind of a social media thing. I don't really know what my social media things are, but I'm sure you can probably find me somewhere.
Yes. I'll make sure to put links in the description as well after we finish this as well. What was your first hypnosis show like? You've done your training, you've read the books, you've been to the courses, you know, you're ready to do your first show. Tell us about that.
Well, I think I did a little bit. I told you about that. My first show was a corporate show in the middle of Iowa, in the middle of a blizzard. It was Fort Dodge, Iowa. And I'll never forget this. I walk into the room and I'm surrounded by 70, 80-year-old farmers in their overalls, their coveralls with their caps on. And, you know, I set myself up for failure with that show, right? I mean, I wasn't the right entertainer, but I was so eager to get out there and do a show that I told them, yeah, I'm the perfect guy for you, hire me. And that's another thing you need to remember too, in my opinion. You're not going to be the perfect entertainer for every group. And you need to be able to humble yourself and say, you know what, I would be doing you a disservice if I did this show for you. But, you know, here's my friend who does this, and I think that might be a better fit for you.
That there is such a good piece of advice, that so many people are so keen to get stage time. And I did it when I was first starting out. Any job, I'll do that. And you do it and you're at some corporate medical conference where they've got no interest in my show whatsoever, because they should have just had a harpist or a singer, because they've not seen each other all year and they want to talk. They don't want an interactive show. And I knew it when they booked the show, but back then I wanted the stage time and I was brilliant and I could convert them. But, you know, sometimes exactly right. And I think it builds respect with a client when you say, I'm not your guy, but this person would be perfect for you. There's more chance that they're going to, at a future date, go, this guy is the right person. And if he's not, he'll say he's not, rather than having a terrible show and then you never get a recommendation from them anyway. So, yeah.
Right on. And again, you and I think we're kind of, you know, we think alike, right? I would rather not set myself up for failure. Now, I'm not saying I'm afraid of a challenge, but don't set yourself up for failure, right? Because it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt the client, you know, in the long run. And believe me, guys, I failed miserably at many shows. There are many shows that I look back on and go, oh, I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe I said that, you know, and I'm an imperfect human. And I think that's what makes an entertainer relatable to an audience, is showing a little bit of that vulnerability, right? Showing a little bit of that imperfection. And to me, there's a certain and forgive me if I sound a little weird, but there's a certain beauty in that imperfection in a performer, right? I don't want to watch a perfect human being on stage. I want to watch a person who's like me, who has flaws, and sometimes a joke bombs, and a lot of people blow right past it. I'm going to address it. Oh, hey, that sucked. I shouldn't have done that. And then whatever. But I think it's okay to be. I think it's okay to be imperfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be remiss, and so Richard Cole just asked about getting a show in Vegas. How did that come about? How did you go from where you were to a Vegas show? Because Vegas was, especially then, was the ultimate, and now I know a lot of entertainers look towards Vegas as being where they want to be. So tell us about that, because I know there's a lot of challenges involved in Vegas shows.
Sure. Yeah, Richard. How did I get a show in Vegas? Well, I was on the road. I was doing a bunch of clubs, right? Doing a lot of corporate gigs, and I had a great career going. And this is going to sound stupid, but I'd never been to Vegas before. And my girlfriend had just broken up with me, right? She didn't like me being on the road all the time. I was heartbroken. I came to Vegas, and I was going to drink. I'm not a drinker, so I said this jokingly. I was going to drink myself into oblivion, like Nick Cage on Leaving Las Vegas. But I came to Vegas and I saw these people that were able to perform and have a show. And I thought, wow, how amazing is that? You can go to work and then go sleep in your own bed every night. Yeah. Which to me, that was like the ultimate, right? I've been living in hotels and, on the road and just grinding it out. Right before that, I bought a new house, and I moved all my stuff in, and I left the very same day, and I hadn't been back to the house. I didn't go back to the house for like 4 months.
Wow.
And so, I was a road dog, right? And there's us road comics that were on the road. That's like a certain sense of pride. But to get to your question, Richard, I saw what people were doing, and I said, I really want to do that. And I had no idea how that happened. A lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna walk into the hotel and go, okay, I'm here, give me a show, and they're gonna be like, oh my God, we've been waiting for you. And nothing could be further from the truth, right? So I came out here. I didn't know anybody here, and I met up with a guy. His name was Will Royer, and I love Will. He was one of the sharpest young guys I'd ever met in my entire life, and he helped me put together a variety show, because he was already working with another show, and he didn't want the two things to, he didn't want a conflict of interest. So I produced a variety show, and we produced a couple magic shows. And when a slot finally came open, I had the opportunity to do the Hypnosis show, which is what I wanted to do. And it was at 11 o'clock at night. And, if you can imagine that, it was on a stage where it was in a showroom that had a big curtain surrounding it, right next to the nickel slots. So when anybody won $3 on the nickel slots, you would hear ching, ching, ching. I would have to stop the show and wait for that $3 to pay out. And, you also had to be really careful where you were walking on the stage, because parts of it you would fall through. So that was my very first showroom in Vegas. And, and I got that just because I didn't give up, right? I just didn't give up. I didn't have any connections here. I just knocked on every door, and I didn't give up. And, it was hard. It was really, really hard, because I would do the show. I would be putting out all this money for the show, advertising and all these other things. And,
that's one of the myths, and I think, like you said, about like you in there grinding as a hypnotist, and a lot of performers kind of think once you get to Vegas, that's it. Then it's simple. You've got your show. People just magically come through the doors, sit down, and watch the show. Tell us about like marketing a show over there.
Yeah, it's all about marketing and making connections. Vegas is a really small town, and you have to connect with the ticket brokers. You have to get out there and really hustle. And, I'll tell you one thing. I was at the hotel all day, every day. I would stand out in front, and my buddy Dave Johnson, who is a very cool magician friend of mine, and I couldn't have done this thing without him. My buddy Dave Johnson, I had enough money to buy this horse costume. And so Dave would put on the horse costume, and we would stand out in front of the hotel handing out $10 coupons to the show all day, every day. I would run home about 9 o'clock, take a shower, come back on stage at 11. Next day, do it all over again. And, on weekends, I would go out and do a comedy club. I would take all that money and funnel it right back into the show. Yeah. And, then Terry and I joined up as partners, and it was just an amazing partnership. Terry taught me a lot on how to produce and how to be bigger than what I was. You know what I'm saying? would I have gone to the bigger showrooms? Probably, but not as easily, having Terry as a mentor. Terry's just, Terry was the guy he was the first guy who did really big fairs, right? He was the guy who went out there and had 100,000 people come and see his shows over, 10 days. That's he was the first guy who figured out how to crack that code. And so, I guess, Richard, I'm sorry, I didn't really answer your question. It's basically like any other business, man. You have to find the right venue, and your product is your product is your tickets. And you have to control your expenses, and you have to, you just have to really get out there and grind it. And, if anybody wants to talk more about that, you can hit me up offline, and I'll be happy to just kind of go over it with you and, talk about some of the stuff that I went through, and, what it takes to do it, in my opinion. But, would I trade it for anything? No, man, it was an amazing experience.
I can imagine. Tommy V says, Michael, you are one of the smoothest.
Hey, Tommy, love you, man. Hey, and by the way, Tommy, I was really sorry to hear about your dad, man. What a great man, and much love to you. Give your mom a hug for me, and just know that we're thinking about you out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Another, Vegas hypnotist legend.
Jerry was amazing. Jerry's was the first book I ever read on stage hypnosis. Yeah, very first book I ever read. Actually, I think it was the only book I ever read on stage.
So, you must have one or two crazy stories from the days of the stage. But what's the ones that stands out the most to you?
Man, Grant, there are just so many ridiculous things that have happened at my show. It would be really hard. I've done bike rallies. I've done shows. I've done comedy clubs. I've had fights break out while in the middle of my show. I've had people try to rush the stage. I've fallen off the stage a few times, just backing up in a comedy club. I took out like 4 rows of tables once.
Wow.
Look, I'm an idiot, right? It happens, there are just so many weird things that have happened to me. I don't know that I could pick one single thing out.
One of the first, I'll say, standing ovations. It was a standing ovation, but not from my show. Was a tattoo convention, but we had a dance floor where they had. I don't know if you have this in the States, but they use talcum powder on the dance floor. So when they do like the northern soul dancing, it makes them dance smoother. I was doing a drop back with a rather large guy, and I had dress shoes on, and literally the floor went from beneath me. This large guy landed on top of me, and because it was a true British audience, everybody was on their feet, cheering and whooping and everything. And I'm like, how do I come back from this? But I was proper on my back, struggling to get this really large guy off me, who was now in a nice deep state, and literally I'm flailing about underneath him. It was That was showing vulnerability.
I love it, man. No, absolutely. That's funny. And you're going to have those situations, right? You're going to have those situations.
Yeah.
And you just got to deal with them,
Yeah. Yeah. Natasha says about admiration, about knowing when to kind of change lanes. How was that for you? You went from being, Vegas headliner, and you kind of, changed direction as such.
Yeah, well, Natasha, you're very sweet for saying so. Thank you. And Grant, you and I have had talks about this before. It came to a point for me that I didn't love what I was doing anymore. And, if we're being honest, don't anybody say anything to anybody else. Don't tell anybody. But I probably should have quit a couple years before I did. And, it's one of those things. It's like, oh man, I've worked so hard to build this thing. I don't want to let it go. But on the other hand, it's like, man, I'm miserable. I don't love this anymore. And you can see that in my shows. You can see that, not that I was phoning it in, but you could tell that I wasn't really happy to be there.
Yeah.
And, you have to know when to walk away, right? You can't, you have to know when to quit.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a good time. For me, it was a good time to go.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go. I could have kept going. It was so funny when I told everybody I was quitting. They're like, "Oh yeah, he's getting kicked out of his showroom, or he went broke." What? Where did all this come from? How do you people who don't even know me seem to? None of that was the case. I had offers. We could have stayed where we were. I owned the show outright. The show had no. It was the most ridiculous thing. But these petty people just wanted to make these ridiculous attacks. And I never responded to it. I never said anything. I'm like, you know what, you guys just, say what you want. I mean, but long story short, you got to know when enough is enough.
Yeah.
And if you're not in this business because you absolutely love being on stage and you love the art of this, if you're just in it for a paycheck, please go do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go get a job. Go do whatever.
It's doing it like the way you did it was, like you said, it's almost perfect. It's you're leaving at that point where everything's still good as such, and then you kind of go, right, I'll put that in its pigeonhole now, and now go do something that, I mean, you rescue dogs, you have a love of classic Porsches,
Yes.
you life is about living it now, not about living it how other people should expect you to live it. So Andre just says, what I loved about your shows was your energy and how did you keep 150% all the time?
I mean, that's the contract I have with the people who come to see my show. I can't, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter, if I'm sick, and there were many times I got on stage when I shouldn't have even gotten out of bed, right? But people had paid to see me.
Yep.
People had paid to see the show. And Terry Stokes the same way. I never saw that man call in sick to a show. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Jay Medicine Hat, same way. He would never call in sick. You get up there and you do your thing. Now, obviously, with a pandemic, there's a different vibe going on, but you owe it to your audience to give everything you can. And in my opinion, for me, if I'm not 100% soaked with sweat and just drenched when I walk off that stage and ready to pass out, I didn't work hard enough.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel, and you can agree, disagree. It's entirely up to you. That's okay.
Yeah. No,
that's
yeah. I must admit, yeah, that whole sweaty shirt when you come off stage sometimes is quite disgusting. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, I always wear a jacket. I mean, I used to just wear a shirt on stage, like a purple shirt, which I loved, and I had them custom made and everything. They were all posh, the lot. But then you saw pictures and videos of shows, and you're like, wow, that looks disgusting now. So now I wear a jacket, which makes me even hotter, but it hides all the sweat. But yeah, that's what they don't see. That's the glamour. Stage light, running up and down on stage, just dripping in sweat.
Oh, I've tried everything too, right? A friend of mine told me one time, take feminine napkins and tape them under your armpits. It's an actor's thing, right? And I mean, I have tried everything. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to be a sweaty pig when I walk off stage. Deal with it.
Yeah, Andre says, would you ever do stage shows again?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually had a meeting yesterday on the Strip, and with some people who have a room that they want me to help them produce some shows. And I don't know that I would personally do it, but I might be willing to produce the right show.
There you go. And your inbox will now be full with hypnotists. You've just opened yourself up there now. Your inbox.
And if I don't get back to you, please don't be offended.
That's one of the weird things with hypnotists. And it's not a negative thing. It's just people are always looking for the shortcut to success. Now, I know that I mean, there's certain venues that I do in season every week. But then other people see that and go, oh, that's a good show, as in the venue. So then they will contact the venue in order to try and get the show. And it's like, I'm a big believer in you go out there and create new work rather than try and, I wouldn't even like to imagine the amount of times that people have emailed and sent messages on Facebook to venues in Vegas to try and get another hypnotist show. So yeah, it is a. So there we go. Michael and his dog Bongo are two of my favorite people. How is the new project going?
It's going very well, Jim. Thanks for asking. I think Grant and I will probably talk about that in a little bit, but it's good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining us today. And he's actually sleeping here. That's why my desk is in the kitchen, because he's 15 and a half and he can't get up the steps. So he likes to be by me. And he's laying on the ground right there.
Oh,
But he
bless
likes
him.
to be by me, and so we do whatever we can to keep him happy and healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. There's this, certain people have this scarcity mindset, right? It's like, I'm going to go after Grant. Oh, Grant did this show. I'm going to go after this venue. Guys, there's so much work out there.
Yeah.
If you're good, if you really work your craft and you put the time in and you're really, you get good and you get confident, man, people will be knocking on your door. They'll be banging your door down to book you. So that's one of the things that I have never done. Like if my friend, I turned down a show at a comedy club in Florida because my friend does a show in the same town. And, I've never been that guy, right? I have a lot of respect for any other entertainer, man. If it's your gig, it's your gig. And, when my friend Jay died, I know several people that they don't know that I know this, but I know several people that went after his shows like that. I mean, didn't even give the man, the next day they were on, calling these clubs. And I just kind of lost respect for those people. It's like, calm down, have a little bit of tact. And again, that's another thing, right? This business, have a little bit of pride in yourself.
Yeah.
Have some pride. You're not, you can be a commodity in this business if you want. You can be a submarine sandwich. There's a billion sub shops in town. Don't be a sub sandwich.
Yeah.
Be special. Be you. And I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway.
Sorry, Andre says glucosamine for Bongo made a huge difference after 2 or 3 weeks with my dog.
Yeah, brother, we're doing everything, man. He gets 2 diabetes shots a day, and he takes 4 or 5 meds a day, and we're just doing everything we can I'm doing everything I can to just keep him healthy and happy for whatever time we have left. It's another reason I don't travel. I just want to spend time with him, and when he's gone, I'm going to sell the house and throw everything in a backpack and just go travel for a while.
Yeah, there's something about traveling. I think that's what draws me to this job, because you get to travel so much. But yeah, I love being on the road. Yeah. So we were talking then about kind of like originality. You are writing stuff for other people, helping people create content. You were just saying then about a new show that you're thinking of doing. Tell us about that, because I think that's so important, because there's so many people. There's so many routines that I think that I've done that's original, and then I'll have a guest on the show, and then they'll show me a video, and I'm like, but I do that with the same music. Do you know what I mean? And there's so much stuff that we all do, and we do try and create our own twist on things as well. But there's a lot of hypnotists doing exactly the same routines that every other hypnotist has been doing for 50 years.
Sure.
So yeah, tell us about the creative process.
Yeah. And I think it's weird because hypnosis is really the only stage craft where you can actually get on stage and do somebody else's material. And for some reason it's accepted, right? If you do that in comedy, not only will you probably get your ass kicked, you're not going to work another club again because it'll get out that you're a hack, right? So look, there are only so many phenomena you can create with hypnosis, right? You can do a hot and a cold, you can do an amnesia, you can do whatever they are, right? I won't go into them all. You guys are professionals, you know this. There are only so many phenomena you can do. My job is to take my hot and cold and make it different from Grant's. To take my hot and cold, make it different from Jay's or Terry's or Andre's or whoever, Michael DeShalit, one of my favorite entertainers. Your job is to take that and make it a little bit different. And one of the ways you can do that is the patter in between, right? That patter is very, very important to how you do things. There's a lot of stuff that you can set. Darren, I'm not going to comment on that, but some people make a very good living doing my show. Word for word. So your job, and look, I can help you with this, right? I can help you write things that separate you from everybody else, right? And that's the creative process. As a comedian and as a writer, I have notebooks, just boxes of things and bits that I've written and different throwaways and different things like that, guys. And that's what's going to make you special. That's what's going to make you different is, look, you can do your hot and cold. Try to make it a little bit different. Try to change it up. Comedy is easy, and some people forget it. It's a setup, it's a premise, a setup, and a punchline. It's those 3 things. That's it, right? So with your bits, what you want to do is you want to make sure that there's a punchline in there somewhere. And that's, I think a lot of people forget that, right? They think about the phenomena. Oh, he's hot, he's cold, cool, it's funny.
Yeah.
Where's the punchline?
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, again, just my opinions, you know, work on that pattern in between the bits, make that pattern different, make that unique, and craft that to you. You know,
it's one of the things that
your personality.
That I've always said, and it's from all the successful people that I've interviewed on this show. It always comes down to pretty much that. It's not this routine, this bit here. It's the bit that holds it together. It's that knowing look to the audience with a little twinkle in your eye that sets them off, that makes the audience think it's the first time they're seeing this, and you're making out it's the first time you've seen it. But it's the bits that it's the glue that hold the show together. Otherwise, we're just going, you're hot, you're cold, you're this, you're that, you're funny, this smells bad, this smells good, and a lot of guys run through that whole, you know, that rota of different routines. So yeah.
I love that take, Grant, and you said something that really, it's probably one of the most important things in being a performer on stage is you have to sell it. You have to sell it every time, like it's the first time you've ever done that bit, because, you know, as entertainers, we get so bored with it. It's like, okay, blah, 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 punchline, pause for the laugh, blah, 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 you know, on to the next one, right? But the audience, you know, you have to really sell that to them. And that's, I think that's probably one of the things that it's going to sound arrogant. I don't want it to sound that way, so please don't take it that way. But one of the things that made me as good as I was because I was able to do that joke that I'd done 5,000 times and make, you know, John and Mary Smith feel like it was the very first time that I'd ever done it, right? And you know, that's part of the process. Right. And that should be part of your process too. And guys, I've been guilty of it. I love that. I've been guilty of it too. Right. I've gotten up there and I've had an off night, and, you know, the jokes weren't hitting and I just wanted to rush through it. And, you know, you need to stop, take a breath, pull back, and remember why you're there, and remember why people are coming to see you. And guys, again, I've made every mistake, right? I'm an imperfect human being. I've made all the mistakes. So when I say something to you, it's not like coming from a holier than thou position. It's coming from a guy who's been there and done it, you know?
Yeah. You mentioned about a new project.
Yeah. You know, what I've been doing over the last several years is I've really gotten into marketing, because when I built my show, I had no budget. You know, I didn't know how to market. So, you know, I've gotten really creative with different marketing. And so what I do now is there are several things that I do. One is I help people write material, whether it's for a speech or a keynote, or create content for a show, or create content to sell afterwards. We do all of those things. And then we can also help them market their show as well, right? We can build sales funnels. We can do, you know, automations and different things like that. There are a million little things that we can do. I recently met with a company, you know, they're doing about, you know, a couple $1 million in volume, and they want to go to 100 million within 10 years. Well, we're putting together a plan for them so that they can recruit and they can get to where they want to be. And to me, that's exciting, right? I want you to be so successful that you've got money just falling out of your pockets and you're happy and you're this and you're that. And, you know, and again, money isn't what drives me. What drives me is, you know, I want to leave a legacy. I want to, you know, I want, how can I say this? When I'm gone, I want somebody to go, you know what? The world is just a little bit better because he was here, you know, whatever. And, you know, even if it's just one person, you know, then I've been successful. So, you know, I do a lot of writing, and I do a lot of creative writing for myself too, right? I'm a writer. I write a lot of goofy stuff. And, you know, I wrote some material for somebody who recently won a television contest. That's all I'm going to say. Due to things, but, you know, and again, I'm always happy to help somebody, you know, if it's just a question or something, and I'm always happy to help you try to figure out why a bid isn't working or something like that, man. I've never turned anybody down. Yeah. I want you to be good. A rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Exactly.
You know.
There you go. Andrew says, already done. The world is a better place because of you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Natasha said that's amazing. In business development and work, she's in business development and works with a few hypnotists. So would love if she can pick your brain sometimes.
Sure,
There you
absolutely.
go.
And Grant's going to put my contact info somewhere. I don't know, guys. I suck at like social media, right? That's really not my forte. If you want to know how to do that stuff, I'm not your guy. But we have other people that do that stuff. But you can connect with me, and you can email me, or you can connect with me on there, and I'm happy to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the nicest people in the business as well. So how do people get in touch with you if they are interested in kind of that marketing side of your business?
Yeah, and again, it's you and I had this conversation before the show started. It's kind of like, being a construction guy, a construction company, and your house is falling apart, right? You're so worried about your other projects that you don't really get to get your stuff done. My old website was speakfromthestage.com. We just had it redone. It should be going live sometime soon, but I still want to go through that. So I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my show, and I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my marketing. So it may not be live for another week or two, maybe even a month or two. Who knows? But Grant's going to put his stuff, my personal contact info. Reach out anytime. I mean, I'm an open book, right? I'll give you my cell phone number, call, text. We'll set together some time. Put some time on the calendar, and just we'll help you get where you want to go. Because I think Grant and I both believe that. We are all in this together, right? And the better we all do, the better our industry is, right? Yeah. There's so many fly-by-night people in this that are just kind of blowing it out. But, if you're on this and you're sitting listening to an idiot like me talk for 40 minutes or whatever, it tells me that you want to do something better. And if I can help you, I don't know that I can, but if I can, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. I always say what's bad for our industry is bad hypnotists. Somebody sees a boring hypnotist that has built themselves as the world's fastest, the world's best, the world's whatever it is. We all have these amazing titles. The booker doesn't know any different. The booker goes, we had the world's fastest #1 hypnotist here, and the show was shit. They're never going to book hypnotists again. If they see a good hypnotist, then more people will book good hypnotists. The better we do, the more work we'll all have. So,
you mentioned something, and I don't know if you and I ever talked about this, but I used to get so many people that come to me and say, oh, they would introduce themselves to me after the show. I'm the world's greatest this, or I'm the #1 that, or I'm this and I'm that. And I would think to myself, okay, no, you're not. But what I'm going to go back to is Jay always told me, he said, listen, you don't ever need to tell anybody you're the greatest this, the fastest that, or the #1 this. If you're that good, they're going to know. Yeah. And I've always kept that in my mind. So I immediately kind of put you on the back burner when you come at me and tell me you're the #1 guy in the world, or you're the greatest this, greatest that, or you try to put somebody else down, and there are people that are going to do that. Look, I'm never going to put you down unless you steal my material. Yeah. If you steal my jokes, then I've got, I'll go batshit on you. But I'm never going to put somebody down who wants to learn and honestly wants to be better. But when you start putting yourself on this pedestal, it's a false pedestal. You're not the world's greatest. Trust me. There's somebody out there who's better. There's many, many people that are better than I am. There are many people that are better than the best guy You just haven't seen them yet. And once you put yourself on that pedestal, you're doing that to build yourself up. Yeah, Richard, absolutely. We don't put people down, right? We want to lift people up in this business, and that's why I'm here, because I love Grant. I love what he does. Grant is the #1 guy in the UK, right? I love what he does. I love what he does for this business and this industry. And Richard, you bring up a great point. Anybody who's going to put you down is not somebody you want to learn from. Anybody who's on these bullshit forums and they're ripping on other people and doing this and doing that, and who I'm talking about. Think about, why do those people do that? Is it because they're really secure in themselves? Probably not.
It was one of the things behind the thinking of this show, that I know that sometimes, especially if you are a couple of years in, you've got a couple of shows under your belt, but you're making a few mistakes, you can't go on the forums and ask for help. It's such a volatile place where people jump on you and tear you apart. And I don't get involved in the forums on social media too much, because people just, that there's people that don't do shows that are tearing apart people that are trying to do better shows. And then that person, when they make a mistake, then doesn't go to the community and go, oh, I've made this mistake, what can I do next time? There's too many people ready to jump on them. So they go underground almost. They carry on making that same mistake. And that's when something dangerous can happen and we lose work. Whereas the purpose of this was to get on true, the top people in the hypnosis community, so they can talk about, yes, we have shit shows, yes, stuff goes wrong, yes, we fall off stage sometimes, yes, these things happen, so people can go, oh, it's not just me then, and it makes the industry more real rather than the fantasy that some people push out there.
No, great point. And I can honestly say I have never, ever gone on one of those forums. And I don't need the negativity, right? And I'll have people every once in a while, oh, so-and-so said this about you. And I'm like, well, did they spell my name right? Okay, cool. I honestly, I'm not going to cuss on your show, but I honestly don't care.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want about me. I don't care. I was fine before you. I'll be fine after you. Your opinion means nothing to me in as far as being a good human and being a hypnotist, right? Unless I ask for it.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to say that I'm perfect, because trust me, if you walk off stage after a show and go, oh my God, that was the most perfect thing I've ever done, I'm set. I don't need to learn anything else. Again, please get out of the business.
Yeah.
I've got notebook after notebook full. I have written a review on every single show that I've ever done. Every single one. I've written what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and what I wanted to do better next time. And, I'm constantly learning. I'm learning, I learn from people who just get in this business. They have a unique take on something. I learn from people that have been in the business for 50 years, like my buddy Terry. I learned from a guy like Grant, who, we've met in passing a few times. We've chatted a few times, but I watch what he does. I'm like, that works. I like what he's doing there. Andre, another guy, my guy in Canada, I watch what he does. I'm a student, I guess. That's the most important thing I could ever try to get across to anybody is, be a lifelong student, learn.
When you talk about notes for shows, there can be a dark side to that. I always try and have notes for my show. This Friday, tomorrow, I'm performing at a venue that I performed at years ago, like one of my first 20 shows possibly. And in the notes, it was really difficult show. Husband of one of the volunteers wanted to fight me.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember I'd done this show years ago. They got a little bit more budget now, which is nice. And so I thought, oh, it'd be nice to go back there. And I went through my phone and I looked and I was like, oh.
I love it. Oh, we've all got those nightmare shows though, right? We look back at the notes, and go, "Oh, that happened here." Yeah, oh, that happened here. Time out. I'm not going back.
I've got COVID. I've tested positive.
And that's another thing you mentioned, budgets too, Grant. Guys, keep your price up. You have value. Now if you're just starting out, are you a $10,000 guy? No, most people aren't. I'm not. I'm not a $10,000 guy. I'll be the first one to tell you that. Anybody who tells you they get $10,000 every single show is a bullshit artist. They don't. But what I'm saying is don't do shows for nothing, because a show that you do for nothing, that's how much value it has to the people you're doing it for.
Yeah.
Right. So always, try to keep your price up a little bit. Are you going to do as many shows? No, probably not. But you're going to get better quality shows. You're going to have a better response.
The negative impact cheap shows have on your psychology, especially when you're learning as well, it makes it harder to get good, to get that confidence on stage, because you're working harder rooms, harder audiences. So yeah, and you don't come away with any money. So
yeah. I mean, people, it's worth what people paid for it, and that's why free tickets are never a good thing. I don't like free tickets. We tried to do it at the show before, and we would notice that the quality of people that we got was just not that great. Now, obviously a corporate show or something like that, it's a different thing. But if you're doing a comedy club and it's, comedy clubs do a lot of free tickets nowadays, right? That's their business model. They went from a paid model to a free ticket with a 2-drink minimum model. And absolutely, Andre, a lower price show for worthy cause is a great thing. I'm one of the board members for Best Buddies. It's a big charity. We work with intellectually disabled folks, and it's a passion of mine. That and animal rescue is a passion of mine. So yes, absolutely, man. Do those shows. You do those shows for nothing. That's fine. Yeah. That's a different thing, right? You're doing that for a cause.
In the UK, I don't know if the States are the same. In the UK, I fell foul to this in the early days. But you get a lot of venues that go, oh, we're doing a cancer charity night where you come and do a show for us for free. And at first you would always like, oh, well, it's for this amazing charity, so yes, I'd do it. But then you're like, well, hang on a minute. The venue is still charging the same the same
Yeah.
money behind the bar, you know.
Absolutely.
So what, I kind of stopped doing them. And then the way that I do charity shows, I have a couple of charities, like you said, that are my charities that I will do shows for no money. And then for others, if I feel that I believe in the cause, rather than doing them a show for free, what I'll do is I'll donate my fee back to the cause afterwards, because then they're still seeing the value. They're seeing that's what it's cost for the show, and that's what he's donated back, rather than, oh, we've not had to pay for any entertainment, so we can spend some money on a sweet cart and a photo booth instead. So yeah,
Brilliant. I actually love that. I've never thought about that, Grant, but that's brilliant. It really is, because now they've got something invested to make sure that you're successful, right?
Exactly.
They've got money out of pocket. And you know, so trust me, when people have money invested, it's a whole different ballgame on their part. When you say, hey, I'm going to do this for free, watch how much marketing doesn't get done. Watch how, you know, how many people have just kind of a lackadaisical attitude when you walk into the room. They don't care. But when they've got money on the line, you know.
Yeah,
So.
makes all the difference. More than happy to help anybody. Do those shows for free, or find a sponsor to bring the client who will pay for your fee? Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, listen, a lot of people will, you know, when you're doing a corporate, or not a corporate thing, but a charity thing, sponsors are pretty easy to come by. Companies have this huge budget to give for training and charity, right? They might not have it for entertainment, but they've got it for, you know, to give to charity and for training. So that's a great point. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. I always ask this, do you know, it's been really great talking to you, by the way. I also ask the question as well, if you were to give one tip, I mean, I know you've been very generous with the advice and tips you've given out already, but if you were to give one tip to a new hypnotist a couple of years in that's wanting to really kind of set themselves up, what tip would that be?
Man, there's so many. You know, I could sit here and pontificate and get on my soapbox, but I don't want to be that guy, right? If I were to give anybody some advice, I would just say, you know, find out who you are on stage. You're going to get so much further being the genuine, you know, being the genuine article.
Yeah.
Find out who you are on stage. I can't be Grant. I can't be, you know, anybody else in this. I'm never going to be you, and I'm never going to come on stage and try to be you. Is everybody going to love me? Nope. There's plenty of people that hate me. You can find lots of bad reviews about me, but you know what? The majority I was able to connect with, and we were able to do that. So I think if I could give anybody one piece of advice, would be authentic. The second piece of advice would never stop learning and writing. Never stop learning and writing. Always elevate our craft, right? Elevate our art. And guys, that's what this is. This is an art, right? Yeah, you can make really good money doing this, you know, but don't do it for the money. Do it because you love doing it. And you know, we had the conversation. When I stopped loving it, it was time to go.
Yeah.
You know. So and you know, listen, I'm a very not really a touchy-feely guy. I'm a very introverted guy, but I love people, right? And if you're on this and you need some help, reach out, man. That's why we're here, right? And I'm sure Grant feels the same way.
Absolutely.
We want you to be successful, you know, and I don't want your money. I don't want any of that. I just want you to be good. I want you to go out. I want you to be successful and have fun and do whatever. And if I can help be a part of that success, by all means, reach out.
That's it. I mean, otherwise the craft will die off, you know. There's generations now, there's audiences now that have never seen a hypnosis show. They don't know what hypnosis is. You know, they think it's something with whale music that's going to help you stop smoking or lose weight. They don't realize it's actually an entertainment form as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Go on.
I'm sorry. And you know, all of these hypnotists are getting churned out. You know, when Grant started, when some of our old school people started, there weren't a lot of hypnotists, but now you've got these people, they're churning them out left and right, which, hey, I'm not going to get into that, right? If that's what you want to do, that's your business. But those people, they don't care about our art, right? They go up there, they do somebody else's stuff. They get a few laughs with my jokes or Grant's jokes or your jokes, which, hey man, that's, you know, that's not, you didn't earn that, right? Yeah. Then they walk off stage, they pat themselves on the back, go, oh, man, I was amazing. Yeah. And that is going to hurt our business. That is going to hurt your business, right? It's not going to hurt my business because I don't do shows anymore. You know, but you need to elevate your craft. Yeah. That's the thing. Always be trying to step your game up and be fearless.
Yeah.
You know, you may try a bit on stage and it bombs horribly. Do it anyway. Try it. Figure out a way to make it work. And you know, that, I guess that's one of the things I can tell you too, man. Be fearless. You know, get up there. And obviously in a corporate show is a different thing than a comedy club, right? In a corporate show, you want to be totally safe and clean and blah, 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 blah. And even the show that I did 10 years ago, or you couldn't do that today. You could, with this woke culture, you could not get away with that crap.
Yeah.
But I recognize that. So, you know, be fearless up there, man. Try new things, stretch, right? Yeah. Stretch. Try that joke, try that bit, as long as it's safe to your folks on stage and nobody's going to get hurt. You know, try.
Yeah,
you know, that's it. Try. You know,
yeah, that's great advice. There's a couple of shows I do that are salt of the earth people in the audience, we'll say. But I always know that's always a great place where I can test new material and I can push the envelope a little bit more and you know, figure out what works. It's about, like you said earlier, about being authentic. It's about finding a line or a situation that happens and how can you just tweak it and just make it a little bit more funny and squeeze as much funny out of it until eventually you've got a polished bit, a polished routine that works really well. And that's when it gets frustrating, when you spend years figuring out that's what makes that bit funny. And then somebody else sees it on YouTube. And then all of a sudden it's somewhere else. And you think it took me 5 years to polish that to get to there. And now it's just a throwaway line. So yeah.
Yeah. The you know, the old joke is thou shalt not hack. That's like the 11th commandment, right?
Yeah.
Thou shalt not hack. You know, but you know, great points, all guys. Get out there, stretch it a little bit. You know what I mean? Get out there and stretch a little bit. And Andre, perfect point.
Yeah.
You know, making several skit changes in this new area of wokeness. Absolutely, guys. We can't, as performers, unfortunately, we can't say the things that we used to say, right? And I say that in a way that's like, look, man, you don't need to get up there and be a racist. You don't. That stuff was never okay, right? But you can push the envelope a little bit and use some innuendo and different things like sexual. I mean, different things like that, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can't do that. You have to be completely 100% safe, and it's sad because, you know, you can't tell art what to do.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, if you come and see my show and it's like you didn't like my show, that's okay, but you can't make me change my show because you didn't like it. You know, and that's what we see now.
Yeah, we've just recently, this week, in a city next to the city that I'm in Sheffield, there's a British comedian, not my comedy at all, called Roy Chubby Brown. He is a character played by a comedian who's very offensive, but that's the nature of the comic. He portrays a character that is offensive. He's been on the scene for 30 years and fills theatres. We've come out of the pandemic and his show at Sheffield City Hall has been cancelled by the local council, not from lack of tickets, not for anything like that, because it doesn't fit in with their values and standards of comedy. Which is his comedy is not. I wouldn't buy tickets to go see him, but I think that's the way that you police those things. If people don't buy tickets, then it's no longer funny. To have a power above go, you can't do that. So it's caused a bit of controversy around here.
I agree. You know, the market dictates what's good and what isn't.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm not selling tickets, I can either change my show or, you know, go get a job, you know, cleaning, washing windows, whatever that is, right? I just, you know, there's certain things that are off limits, right? For me, politics, religion, and I never pick on people that can't defend themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Those are the three things that are totally off limits for me. Everything else, as far as I'm concerned, is fair game.
Yeah.
I may not like what you do, but I'm not going to tell you have to change that to please me. Again, you can't tell art what to do. Years ago, I flew to Paris to see a painting. And, you know, it'd be like me telling that painter 500 years ago, it's like, you know, man, yeah, you need to take this line and put it over here. That would make this, you know what I mean? It's just like, you can't do that. I either like it or I don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's not my place to tell the artist. And I say this not to be pompous, guys. I don't consider myself an artist. I'm not that guy, right? But you can't tell the performer, the artist, how to do their art.
Yeah.
You can tell them you don't like it.
Yeah.
You can tell them you like it, but you can't tell them you need to change this because of this. Yeah. I guess, does that make sense, or is that too weird?
That makes 100% sense. But again, social media age, you know, if that artist was alive today and put that picture on Facebook, people would go, no, you've done that wrong. It needs to be that way. People will get offended at anything these days. So yeah,
people just want to be heard, guys. People just want to be, and then people, now they have a platform to do that, right? They have social media, they have, and then the problem is we've let these people think that, okay, your opinion has value, when in fact your opinion has no value. It's just your opinion. That's one of the issues. Don't get me started on that, man. We don't want to go down. You'll have me screaming and red in the face, and I'll probably have a heart attack. I'm an old guy.
I didn't get into a debate with it, but there was a thing where I shared a thing about a scientific experiment that was performed, and somebody corrected me, and it was this was wrong and other, and I've gone, no, the reason why they use mice is because of the science behind it. It's just science. It's not a political statement. But I decided to not get into it with this particular person. But that's what the internet's for.
There's an old saying, and Dylan, you're absolutely right. There's an old saying that said, a mind convinced against its will is of the same opinion still. I can sit and argue with you until you're blue in the face. You're going to have your beliefs. I'm going to have my beliefs. But you know what, guys? Just because we believe different things, we don't have to be nasty to each other. We can still be friends. I've got friends that I absolutely love, and they're the most, politically opposite of me that you could possibly get. I'm still going to love on you. You're still my friend. We don't have to hate each other. And that's again, same way you see a lot of that in hypnosis. You don't do it this way, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You don't do it this way, you're wrong. It doesn't have to be that way. As long as you're keeping your people on stage safe and you're not making, boneheaded mistakes and destroying the art, go for it, man.
Yeah. I remember I put a video up, and the video was about a standing ovation, and the post was something about like that's what the show's for, and it was all these people, and it wasn't an ego post. It was look at the audience of different ages that just have genuine joy from this moment. And I know in the States there's controversy about laying people on the floor, how terribly disrespectful it is, and done wrong, I believe it is. But literally, someone had missed the point of the post and was like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe you've laid those people in the mud on the floor." And I'm like, "What?" But yeah, I didn't lay.
That's what you took from this.
Exactly. Like, I didn't lay people face down in the mud on the floor, but the post went nuts, and I'm like, social media is not for me.
Yeah, and I apologize. I've got really bad vision here. Is it Fraser? I love what Fraser. Yeah, it's okay to disagree. Just don't be a dick, right?
Exactly.
So, hey, anybody have any questions for me? Is there anything I can answer for anybody? And I'm here as long as you guys need me. I don't know what your time limit is, Grant. If you want to do a few more minutes, we're cool.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, I'm happy to go on for a little bit more. I mean, we're kind of on time now, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. You are one of the nicest and most, when we talked about earlier, authentic people in the industry. And so, guys, please do. I will put Michael's contact details in the description on the YouTube channel as well. Do hit him up. Don't pester him about the gig in Vegas.
Yeah, please don't. I'm happy to help you, but please, that's just one of those things. There's so much involved, guys. I'll walk you through it if we have time, but check out my, connect with me on social media. I'll be on Facebook for at least another 24 hours. I always kind of deactivate and go away for a while just because, I don't want to feed into that negativity. I don't want to read that stuff. That puts my mind in a weird place, and I don't like that, right? But yeah, I'm on the Instagram too. I've got a whopping 39 followers. Killing it on the gram.
Yeah, you're going to be an influencer.
There you go. Is that what they call them now?
Yeah, that's what they call it now. It's an actual career now. It's like a career. People earn serious money on Instagram being just I don't think it's for me or you though. I don't think we look good in bikinis. So.
No, I certainly don't. Absolutely not. Yeah, and everybody, thank you for the kind words. Grant, love you, man. Love the show. Keep it up, brother. I hope to connect with you. Andre, you got my number, brother. Reach out. All you guys, Grant, please put my contact info. Not the phone number. If you guys don't put it on like the phone number, put my
no. I'll put your email on there, and they can do the email. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just going to get bombarded.
Put my email and my social stuff. You can find me on social media, guys. I'm not hard to find. Just a bald guy. But hey, I love you all, and man, seriously, it's been an honor to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, so yeah, Fraser says, a quick question. Cruise lines right now are not having interactive shows. Any advice as to which market to hit to still create the stable income until cruises come back?
You know what? I've never been a big cruise ship guy. I've done a few of them, right? It's just really not my gig. But I think here's what I would do. If I were starting out today and I were looking for a show, I would be looking for secondary entertainment destinations. And I would try to find a hotel or an event center that would let me come in and do a show on a door split.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody? Hey, Darren, good to see you too, brother. It's been too long. Yeah, I think that's what I would try to do.
Yeah.
You know. And, hey, Boris, man, I'm a huge Boris fan. I just saw he was on here.
Boris is again
amazing.
Genuinely nice person, genuinely great guy as well.
Absolutely amazing guy. Well, thank you guys very much, and reach out to me on the socials. And Grant, you take care of yourself. Everybody, be safe, stay well, and I hope to hear from you.
Cheers, fantastic. Thank you very much for your time as well, Michael.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.